Hi, everyone. I wanted to take a few minutes and introduce you to a couple examples of the state auditor's office PCAR project presentations. Um, the presentations are scheduled for next Thursday, the 23rd. Um, right now, my intent is to start them about 3 o'clock. That's what time I've told Jonathan Vickers from the state auditor's office to be here. I'd like to wrap up by around 5 so that those of you who are attending the professional image night are able to get there on time. Jonathan and I will be at the professional image night dinner at what 6:30, I think, 6 or 6:30. So we will be there then. So with that in mind, we've got 15 groups, 2 hours. Um, so what probably looking at even 10 minutes each would be 12 groups. So honestly, I'm looking for presentations that are in the 6 to 8 minute range. And that really is enough time to get through them. I'm going to walk through a couple of old examples here that I've got up. You can see the first one already on the shared screen. Um, that's from a couple years ago. And these two examples have some good stuff, have some things I want to talk about. But, really, even these are probably a little bit long in that I don't know how to say it. I want you guys to show that you know what you've done, but I also don't need you to go back and be like, oh, we decided to use Tableau and we decided that we needed to use Excel. Like I I want it to be more of a results oriented presentation. And with results oriented, that means I really want you to get into like the heart of, hey, we were responsible. We were looking at these months and, let's dive right into, the interesting things that we found. Okay. So let's take a look at this example. So this is just an introduction page. Um, Now you will have on the screen, you'll be able to uh, it on the presentation screens at WVU. What it does is it pulls up uh, like in the presenter mode. It puts the slides up on the projector, and then you have the version in front of you that has like your notes and stuff like that. Like you can see that this one, they had some notes with each slide. Now I will caution you not to write out notes and read them word for word. Um, I almost recommend like some bullet points that are easy to glance down and follow, but obviously I'll leave that up to you. Um, so in this, and again, this is actually a good overview, but in the essence of time, I we can cut some of this stuff out. And it's not because I don't think it's quality or good to have it in there. It's just whenever we're talking about 6 to 8 minutes of presentation time, walking through this kind of stuff, I mean, it's not value added whenever we're so limited. So, this kind of overview, you can have an overview. Don't get me wrong, you can absolutely do something like this, but it needs to be something that you run through quickly if you are going to do it. So here, this is where they started showing their results. So whoever did this, they were searching for cigar stores and GameStop, just things that they thought might be, sort of weird to have. And you can see here that they identified, some cigar store transactions and cigar stores and then GameStop transactions. Um, and you can see on this, we're showing you all this because we thought the transactions to be suspicious. Not suspicious is a strong word. whenever we talk about these, I guess I'd say words that we don't use. We don't use the word fraud because we don't know if anything's fraud. If you go on and you take the forensic and fraud classes, I know that whenever I took them 20 years ago, um, Dick Riley always told us, we don't say the word fraud. We say that, the action was consistent with a pattern, uh, or no, there was a pattern consistent with fraudulent actions that we have seen in the past, or something like that. Like you're sort of beating around the bush with it without saying the actual word. But in this case, we really don't know. I mean, okay, the cigar store transactions are, suspicious, but at the same time, maybe that cigar store sells a specific type of gum that, somebody, I don't know. I mean, that's a stupid example, but I mean, legitimately, that's why we can't call it fraud because it could be something harmless and those should be looked into. We can't just come out and be like, oh, we caught these guys. So keep that in mind. And that's true for basically all these things. Here this was examples, with smoker friendly, uh, different municipalities and stuff. I want you guys, you can see in my example here, I've blanked out like anything that has like names or anything. I want you to blank that stuff out. Uh, yeah, Gunner Kennels is and stuff from Gun Magazine Warehouse on February 23rd. Um, Now, it says they flagged these transactions because they thought them to be a little bit suspicious. I had students one time that had flagged a transaction at a gun store, but then whenever they looked at the entity, they saw it was a police department. Well, that probably makes sense. The police department may have a purchase at a gun store. And so, they still flagged it because it was something found, but then they also went ahead and said, hey, this is probably okay because it's a police station. It's not like it's the Board of Education buying a gun, or who else? The county, the county clerk or something. It's police department. Um, and that's what I guess it was the county commission here from the gun mag or the gun magazine warehouse.com. That's kind of funny that was the example I gave. But regardless, what else? Card gift and souvenir shops. These are things, again, they identified them, and this kind of stuff is worth calling out. Chances are, especially if these are Board of Education, that they're probably field trips of some kind, but we don't actually know that. But like here was some of those charges that they, here's the Zoo Factory and Louisville Slugger Museum and all that stuff. So you can always look and see who's making the charge. And then if you look it up, like the Zoo Factory, I don't know what the Zoo Factory is. Well, I looked it up and I remember this distinctly from looking it up, like back whenever they first did this presentation. And it's like a Build-A-Bear type thing. So, it's probably has something to do with some kind of school event. So maybe it makes sense, but still calls it out because it's something that is, a little bit different from what we would normally see. Yeah, here, Zoo Factory is made by a Board of Education. Louisville Sluggard was by a technical school. Could be suspicious. They could also be on a field trip, and they stopped there. So maybe that would make sense too. Court costs, that's sort of weird. You would think the court costs generally would be paid by an individual. College spending, these were transactions to colleges. I actually do think that there's some spending allowed, like in certain programs where they're allowed to take courses and stuff, but I'm not sure. But this one, they were fairly large transactions. And then here's the end, their opinion of suspicious activity, great learning opportunity, all that. And you see here they even called out for themselves to say we are no way accusing anyone of committing fraud. It's not our responsibility. that's a caveat that should be given in every presentation. So pretty good job with that. Let's jump over. Here's another one, also from 2024, and let's flip through it. Once again, they're going to have an introduction, what they did, why they did it. Notice this one also has, they've written out some pretty thorough, uh, almost paragraph form here, things to read off. And that, again, I caution that because, you can sit and read it, but then it looks like you're sitting and reading. So, that if you have bullet points that you can talk off of, then you can glance at them and then make sure that you're up and looking at your audience. In this case, this was these guys went sort of above and beyond. They were doing, what is it, standard deviations of they graphed all of the fuel transactions and stuff, and so they were doing all kinds of extra work, and that was good. They were just simply trying to get additional information and uh, put something together that looked different and interesting. And this was different and interesting. Was it a little hard to follow? Not really. Um, but what they basically got, uh, this was an example. They were very large gasoline and diesel transactions, and their thought was, well, uh, diesel buses, that makes sense. A school bus runs on diesel, but there was this big unleaded gasoline uh, purchase, and so they thought that was strange. I happen to have inside information because my brother is a school bus driver for the state of West Virginia. They actually do make regular gasoline uh, fueled buses. There are a handful of them out there, just like there's also a handful that run on natural gas, or maybe it's propane or something. They run on gas, but like not like gas from the gas station, but gas the like I said, floating through the air, propane, something like that. Natural gas, I don't know. And then the couple of electric ones that keep breaking down here in the Morgantown area. So, but anyway, that they thought of something and they tried to go a little above and beyond to put together something that was interesting, and so I liked it. This was a nice ad. Um, More stuff on the fuel purchases. Now this one was really interesting, and again, this is just someone looking at data and looking for trends and stuff. They found this chiropractic practice that had all these charges over the course of like 2 different days. And whenever they looked at it, I don't know if it's down here in the listing. Yeah, it was a Board of Education card. Yeah, the clinic was up in Pennsylvania, and we thought, well, Pennsylvania's right across we share a border, that's not that unreasonable. Until they looked it up, and that particular chiropractic clinic was well over an hour away from the closest West Virginia border. So to get there, you had to drive a ways, and for there to be 10 charges in over 3 days, that's a little suspicious. Looked at alcohol purchases. Some departments are allowed to purchase alcohol for things. Now, this gets a little hard to follow because, yeah, I know we're breaking out all the different collars and stuff, but like we're trying to track collars from here over to see what, okay, which one does L line up with? Is it this TJ, or is it East, or is it this TJ or whatever? And then is it this pink? Is it that pink? Like you can't really tell. So stuff like that, you can talk about it, but putting this kind of color coding on can make it a little hard to follow. This is where you can see we blanked out names and stuff because it was in the data. Like I said, I would just exclude the column, but this was done we decided last minute that we were going to blank out all the names because Jonathan had asked us to. And so this is basically this was the workaround to just go in and cover it up. Um, but you could just exclude the lines. This was alcohol the next month, professional equipment. That might be, that might make sense. Who knows? Um, Electronic stores. So they called out some different electronic stores. I think the one is $50,000 at apple.com from the Board of Education. Um, that actually makes sense. It's a big number. It could be looked at, but it's an iPad purchase, a bulk iPad purchase. So it does actually make sense. Obviously, we don't know this, but Jonathan happened to know what that was. Um, Talking about what it's like, and then conclusions and questions. And Jonathan likes to ask everybody a question or two. Um, that's another reason I say 6 to 8 minutes because you got to leave a couple minutes for him to ask a question, and he's just trying to get everyone to participate a little bit. Like it's a yes, they do sometimes take action on the things that we find, absolutely, um, but just generally as far as you know him being there, he wants to make you guys feel like he's interested because he is. Like that's the thing. Yeah, it's not his group that's going to actually investigate things, but like he is interested in what we're finding. And so he tries to make everyone feel included by asking some questions and just, maybe if he picks up on something, maybe he tries to sort of lead you towards what he's thinking or something. So it's a good experience. So anyway, that's a couple of examples of presentation slides. I'm going to be posting a sign up list that we can run through the presentations probably next Tuesday or Wednesday. I'll probably have a couple of different sign up times you can go ahead and sign up for. Um, and that way, we can knock it out. I've had several of you email me about conflicts with your presentation. If you have a true conflict that you have to miss the presentation for, obviously, I'm not going to hold you at fault for that. This is an asynchronous class, and asking you to come together to meet like this is sort of outside the scope of the class or outside the scope of what the asynchronous class means. But at the same time, this is something we need to do. So if you're able to come, you absolutely should. Um, but if you absolutely can't come, then I'm not going to hold it against you as long as you help your other group members prepare the presentation. And if you had any specific findings that you think should be discussed, that you put the slides in, then you discuss it with whoever's going to be there. Like, hey, this is the kind of stuff I was looking at. Can you talk? Like, do something like that. All right, I think that's it. Thank you guys for tuning in. And I'm going to go ahead and stop it now. And I look forward to seeing everyone next week.